This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. Simpsons fans are familiar with the Season 8 episode, The Itchy and Scratchy and Poochied Show, where Poochie the dog is introduced to help the Itchy and Scratchy show's sagging ratings. Wrestling fans have seen similar situations with tag teams and factions. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at 5 times wrestling teams or factions got Poochied. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. It's unwise to mess with success, but what does a promoter do when a tag team or faction loses one of its members? In some cases, such as the Rockers, teams are split up to create 2 single stars. In other cases, a wrestler departs, leaving a promoter with the option of disbanding a team or finding a replacement partner to keep an act going. After all, why write off a lucrative tag team or faction if it can be salvaged? In other instances, an act may just be getting stale. In this case, a wrestling promoter decides to add a 3rd member to a team to shake up a faction. It's important to keep things fresh so fans remain invested in their favorite teams or groups. Unfortunately, it's often easier said than done. Let's start by looking at the epitome of a faction that went off the rails thanks to adding too many members: the Poochie poster child. Without question, WCW's New World Order remains one of wrestling's greatest factions. At the same time, it also remains one of the biggest cases of how to take something incredibly popular and ruin it by running it into the ground. In the NWO's case, the group began by slowly adding members to build its strength. This made sense as the idea that Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall could take on all of WCW by themselves was too hard to swallow. Thus, the bad guys in black and white added new members such as Syxx, aka Sean Waltman, the Giant, and their financier Ted DiBiase. However, things quickly began to get out of hand when DiBiase's former WWF bodyguard Virgil, now working as Vincent, showed up as head of NWO security. Virgil's arrival was a bad omen for fans enjoying the New World Order. Not long after, a small army of WCW wrestlers joined the New World Order. This included mid-carders Marcus Buff Bagwell, Big Bubba Rogers, and Scott Norton. The lineup grew so fast that before long, fans weren't asking who was in the NWO, but who wasn't. Apparently, only a few WCW stars subscribed to Groucho Marx's witty words, "I don't want to belong to any club that would accept me as one of its members." To no one's surprise, the New World Order was diluted to the point where nobody cared. The group was no longer an elite group of bad boys, it had grown to a veritable who's that of wrestling. Paul Roma joins the Four Horsemen. What do you do when one of the Four Horsemen's founding members can't return for a reunion? Do you scrap the idea and maintain the group's integrity? Do you find a suitable replacement? In 1993, Ric Flair was back in WCW after a successful run in the WWF. When Flair announced a Four Horsemen reunion for the promotion's Slamboree pay-per-view, Horsemen fans couldn't wait. The unveiling of the new lineup started off well. Fans were excited to see original Horsemen, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Ole Anderson all present. Rumor had it that original Horseman Tully Blanchard, who at one point had left for the WWF, was returning. If not, there were other solid Horseman choices available, including Barry Windham. This one was going to be good. Or so the wrestling world thought. Instead of Tully Blanchard or Barry Windham, the fans got Paul Roma, a mid-card talent from the WWF whose biggest accomplishment up north was in the tag team Power and Glory with Hercules. Roma was obviously no Blanchard or Windham, but there might be hope. After all, wrestling is full of examples where a younger wrestler is elevated by joining a veteran. For example, Ric Flair was paired with veteran heel Rip Hawk when Slick Rick first joined Jim Crockett Promotions in the mid-70s. Before long, Flair was also incorporated into the Minnesota Wrecking Crew with Ole and Gene Anderson as their kayfabe cousin. Could WCW possibly work some magic? Turns out they couldn't. Roma had several things going against him. One was that some fans still saw him as enhancement talent. Another was that he was a former WWF wrestler, which made him an outsider. It probably didn't help that Ole Anderson was being Ole Anderson and quickly bowed out, turning the Horsemen into a trio. Roma was a capable worker, as he'd shown during his time in the Young Stallions and Power and Glory, but that wasn't enough and the fans just didn't want him around. So why was Roma placed in the Horsemen? Arn Anderson once commented on his podcast, The Arn Show, putting Roma into the Horsemen was an office directive. Arn Anderson feels Roma worked much better when he was teamed with Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Although Arn has been gracious, Roma has blasted the Horsemen in interviews, and in August 2022, he challenged Nature Boy Ric Flair to a match. Worse than Rocco? The Legion of Doom adds draws. Our next case involves 2 awful additions to an amazing tag team. In 1990, the Road Warriors made their long-awaited trip to the WWF. Wrestling's hottest tag team were in the WWF, but would the WWF know how to use them? Although the Road Warriors were repackaged as the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal seemed to be off to a good start in the WWF, except perhaps for their name change. While fans might think that McMahon changed the team's name to gain control of the intellectual property rights, that's not so, at least according to Road Warrior Animal. In a 2018 interview with Chair Shots to the Cranium, Animal explained, "That was Vince McMahon. He said at the time, I have the modern day warrior with Kerry Von Erich, and I've got the ultimate warrior, and I have you guys that will be another warrior. I don't want to have too many warriors in my stable." I said, well, how about the Legion of Doom? The Legion of Doom enjoyed success, including a run as WWF Tag Team Champions. However, after leaving the promotion, they returned in 1992 with some dead weight in the form of a ventriloquist's dummy. As noted by the history of the WWE, the Legion of Doom and manager Paul Ellering revisited their old stopping grounds in Chicago. There, they found a beat-up ventriloquist's doll. Unless the doll was possessed by a serial killer, it seemed out of place. Nevertheless, Paul Ellering brought it to ringside until suddenly Rocco was missing in action. What happened? Had Repo Man stolen it? Did Rocco run off with a ring rat? In a 2015 interview with WrestleTalk, Animal explained, "That puppet got mysteriously lost at the airport, I'll tell you that right now. After SummerSlam, that thing was gone. They did the puppet because Hawk and I sold a lot of action figures. They were trying to find a softer side of the Road Warriors. We have spiked shoulder pads on. No way you're going to find a softer side to the Road Warriors. It was their idea and Hawk and I hated it." In 1998, an equally unwelcome member would be added. No, Wrestling's Greatest Moments isn't talking about when Sonny briefly managed the LOD as LOD 2000. No, Sonny was a welcome addition in terms of eye candy, adding something to Hawk and Animal's act. The unwelcome addition in question was former NFL player Darren Drozdov, who was working as Puke in the WWF. Drozdov made an immediate impression on Vince McMahon through his amazing ability to vomit at will. Coincidentally, the storyline the WWF concocted for the Legion of Doom made many Hawk and Animal fans nauseous. Puke was introduced as someone trying to work his way onto the team. At the time, the WWF ran a tasteless, even by wrestling standards, storyline where Hawk was battling substance abuse problems. These problems impacted his ability to compete, leading to losses for the team. Consequently, Animal began relying on Puke to help him. The storyline continued and was set to conclude with the revelation that Puke had been supplying Hawk with drugs. Besides the gaping plot holes, the storyline angered fans. These fans felt Hawk's well-known substance abuse problems shouldn't be turned into a storyline. The Legion of Doom wasn't thrilled with the storyline either, and the WWF canceled it. Droz and Animal parted ways in the ring, and the Legion of Doom left the WWF a few months later. Bad street or bad idea? The Fabulous Freebirds are one of wrestling's legendary trios. Michael Hayes, Terry Gordy, and Buddy Roberts weren't wrestling's original bad boys, but they certainly knew how to play them equally well in and out of the ring. The terrible trio wreaked havoc across North America, including well-remembered runs in World Class Championship Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, Mid-South Wrestling, and WCW. One not-so-well-remembered run was in the WWF, where wrestling legend has it that the Freebirds' love of the nightlife led to a hasty departure. By 1989, Buddy Roberts' career was winding down, so when the Freebirds flew to WCW, they added gorgeous Jimmy Garvin to the group. Michael Hayes and Jimmy were longtime friends and worked well together. Terry Gordy occasionally appeared, but by 1991 it was mostly Hayes and Garvin. Things changed in May 1991 when a masked wrestler, dubbed Fantasia, began interfering on the Freebirds' behalf. Veteran grappler Brad Armstrong donned the mask to become Fantasia. Interestingly, he also continued working as his babyface persona. Fantasia disappeared in just a month, reportedly due to legal threats from Disney. In his place was the Masked Bad Street, named after the street in which the Freebirds had grown up on. Bad Street even won WCW's six-man tag team championship with Hayes and Garvin. Armstrong was well known for being one of wrestling's hardest workers, but even his efforts couldn't make this work. It probably didn't help that the Freebirds had an entourage accompanying them, including Sir Oliver Humperdinck working as Dink at one point, as well as Diamond Dallas Page and the Diamond Doll. Bad Street was just one of many bad ideas in WCW around this time. Regrettably, Brad Armstrong always seemed to get stuck with these clunkers. Not only did he work as Bad Street, but he also worked as the Candyman and the Spider-Man ripoff wrestler Arachnaman. Lance Von who? Fritz Von Erich's World Class Championship Wrestling is a classic case of putting all of your eggs in one basket. In Fritz's case, it was relying too much on his sons to carry the promotion on their collective shoulders. World Class wasn't the first wrestling territory that relied on promoters' sons. Throughout history, wrestling fans have seen promoters who lived by the adage, "We promote family values almost as much as we promote family members." Fritz's sons David, Kevin, Kerry, and Mike Von Erich ranged in talent from very good to good enough, which made him comfortable pushing them as the territory's top babyfaces. This strategy initially helped World Class become one of the hottest regions in North America. While the company had other babyface stars, they played supporting roles as Fritz knew he could always count on his sons to stick around. This formula worked fine until one tragedy after another hit the family, beginning with David's death in 1984 and Mike nearly dying in 1985 after he suffered toxic shock syndrome following shoulder surgery. While Fritz had plenty of stars, his policy of pushing his sons was taking its toll as Kevin and Kerry were working extra matches to make up for Mike's absence. Rather than elevating existing stars, the Von Erich patriarch decided to create a fake Von Erich. Fritz introduced Lance Von Erich, aka wrestler Ricky Vaughn, as his brother Waldo Von Erich's son. Waldo was Fritz's kayfabe brother, so it wasn't a stretch to claim Lance as a kayfabe relative, or was it? Wrestling lore has it that the family was opposed to the idea. They felt the fans would know Lance was a phony and feel cheated. Fritz ignored them and pushed Lance, hoping he could fill in for the injured Mike while he recovered. Unfortunately, a pay dispute led to Lance leaving the promotion. Fritz went on TV and told fans Lance was a fraud, quite the statement since Fritz was the one who had introduced him. Somehow, Papa Fritz found a way to make a bad idea even worse. Although it's hard to say if this was the beginning of the end for World Class, which was already struggling at the box office, it certainly didn't help things. Here comes the Axe and here comes the Crush? Wait, what? Was the tag team Demolition the WWF's attempt to create their own version of the Road Warriors? When Road Warriors Animal and Hawk opted to sign with Jim Crockett Promotions, the team of Axe and Smash, aka Demolition, debuted in the WWF. Axe, aka Bill Eadie, aka The Masked Superstar, and Smash, aka Barry Darsaw, aka Crusher Khrushchev, were pushed as monster heels. Their leather outfits and elaborate face paint had some fans thinking they were a poor man's Road Warriors. However, the WWE's Bruce Pritchard claims he doesn't understand the comparison. I never got the Demolition comparison. There were a lot of people who looked at the Road Warriors as a cheap imitation of Demolition. So there were fans who were only fans of Demolition, and when the Road Warriors came in, they saw them as imitations of Demolition. The people that were Road Warrior fans saw Demolition as cheap imitations of the Road Warriors. To me, they both wore face paint. But beyond that, they were two big body guys together, and all that, and they were different and unique in their own way. While it's difficult to take Pritchard's comments seriously given the timing of Demolition's debut, there's no denying the team got over. The WWF pushed Axe and Smash hard, and eventually WWF fans got behind them. Things were looking good when the Road Warriors finally signed with the WWF. A Road Warriors vs. Demolition feud seemed like it would break the bank. Unfortunately, Axe developed health problems, which put Demolition in jeopardy. Rather than scrapping the angle, the WWF introduced a new member to Demolition, Crush, aka wrestler Bryan Adams. Crush was a potential star, but he wasn't there yet, nor was the chemistry with the rest of the group. The new lineup of Demolition just wasn't the same, which weakened their program against the Road Warriors. Demolition stuck around until 1991 when they went their separate ways. Crush would go on to have a decent singles run during the new generation, but he didn't crush it in Demolition. What do you think of these additions to talented teams and factions? Do you agree with our list? Share your thoughts in the comments section and let us know if there are any videos you'd like wrestling's greatest moments to cover. In the meantime, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and spread the good news about wrestling's greatest moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.